For this card, we're going to use a couple of the images. We're going to use Fashionista Baby. We're also going to use the Sharp Dressed Man, and we're also going to be using some of the sentiments from the Fashion Victim. And I am pretty much using, well, I am using everything from these two stamp sets because I'm using all the sentiments in the background. So we're going to do this, but where we've got blue in the background, we're going to have grey and vice versa. So I've already gone ahead and I've cut the largest of the rounded double debossed rectangle out of the Storm Grey card, and I've matted it onto a piece of almond hue. And then I've got a paper from the Denim and Slate paper pack and cut that from the next size down of the rectangles, and I've just edged it with Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide. I've gone ahead and I've arranged all of my sentiments from the 3 stamp sets onto a stamp press platform kind of thing, just so I can keep on using it while we're doing this particular set. And I'm predominantly on this one, because I've got a blue background, I'm going to ink up with the Hickory Smoke. Now I've got it on this big block, not so that I can re-stamp if I miss a bit, because I'm not bothered about that because it's a background, but just because I can stamp them all in one go. You can of course use a small block and just keep on swapping your sentiments out, but this is a really quick way of doing a background, and of course if you keep it on the block then you can keep on doing it. So obviously I can't see where we've got the ink. I'm just hoping that we've got enough on there. And I'm just going to go in with a little bit of the faded jeans, just a little bit. Don't worry about contaminating your oxides, they behave really nicely. And I've put these on. I actually popped them on my background first and then picked them up onto the block. So they fit really nicely within the deboss lines, and we should get the whole thing in without having to worry about the deboss lines. Hopefully we're straightish, but I'm not too worried because, like I say, it is a background. Unfortunately, the grey ink makes it look like there's nothing on there, so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that there is. Make sure I've covered all my sentiments, and we'll have a look and see what it looks like. There we go. There's our background. I'm very happy with that. That's worked out really nicely. So obviously that you could add embossing powder on here and heat set it and make the colours pop a little bit more, but I'm not going to do that. I didn't dust with an anti-static bag, so I'm not even going to risk that, but I do like the way that that's turned out with the 2 different colours. Now also on my background I've taken 3 of the rounded corner squares and I've taped them together. In fact, I've taken 4 because I want 3 frames. So I'm going to get a frame there, there and there, and then I've got a piece that I can use in the middle. So I've taped them all together and popped them through my die cutting machine, and I end up with 3 frames. Now obviously you can fiddle around with this and you know, change your layouts and figure out different ways of putting them on, but what I did was, you can also kind of slit them as well. What I did was I put that one there, and then we had the next smallest one here, and you can actually, they fit so that they glue together like so, and then that's going to fit on the top nicely, and it gives you kind of a quite an interesting background addition to your background. I'm going to put that one side and I will glue that in a moment. Now let's go ahead and stamp our main pieces. So for this I'm going to use the Stamp Perfect, and we'll stamp the gentleman first. So I've got a strip of Bockingford card here. Put my magnets on and grab him off the carrier sheet. You don't need much card for him because we're going to cut them out. Pick him up. And then I'm going to stamp him with the Nocturne Versifying Clear. Obviously the beauty of the stamp press, as everybody knows that uses one, is that if you miss a little bit, then you can go back in and add some, and even make the colour darker if you're not happy with the depth of the colour, or if your ink pad's running out. Give him a good old stamp, good old press, and I think he's pretty much perfect. Look at the detail on these stamps, they're just tremendous, really are fantastic stamps. So that's him. That's just sharp dressed man. Put him to one side for a minute, and then we'll grab our Fashionista baby. I don't know whether Trudy's come up with the names. I imagine it's Phil that's come up with the names. They're really fun names. So I've got a slightly bigger piece. I'll Bockingford card for this one, because she's got hair that flows. She's almost a little bit Cruella de Vil. Other films are available kind of character. But obviously you don't need to colour her in scary. You can colour her in beautifully with soft pastels if you like. And do remember that although we're going to be using the watercolour blending brush pens, you can use whatever medium you like to colour in. Just remember, you need to think about what ink you're using. The Versifying Clear is actually kind of like a hybrid ink, so it does work with quite a lot of different mediums. You just need to wait for it to dry, or add your embossing powder to it. And give her a good old press. If she's stamped well, and she has another beautiful stamp. Get her out of the way. I'm going to concentrate on the gentleman, which I've got dried here. I like to, because my fingers in the way all the time, I like to make sure that my images are nice and dry to begin with. So I'm using my blending mat, and I'm using my watercolour blending brush pen set 2, and I'm going to colour him in with this grey, which is the lightest grey. Well, his suit, I'm going to colour him with that. I'm not going to bother colouring in his shirt because he's wearing a white shirt. He's a city slicker. And so all I'm going to do for this is take the pen and just draw around the edges of the image. I'll just do one side of his jacket. I won't do all of it because I've got one coloured in already. Just follow the lines down. You don't have to be specific with this. He's got quite a long kind of jacket thing on, hasn't he? Maybe it's a Mac of some sort. Very trendy, whatever it is. I didn't realise that Trudy actually has a fashion background, which is where these images have come from. I think they're tremendous. Okay, so that's that side of his jacket done. I would actually go round and do the whole thing. And all we're going to do is grab a water brush. In fact, I don't need that at the moment. Grab a water brush, make sure it's flowing nicely. Here it kind of complaining at me. And then all I'm going to do is just pull the colour out from the edges. And it will start to blend and move in and soften those extra lines that I've put on. You can go in afterwards and redefine the lines if you want to, but do wait for your card to dry. Your pens, don't take your pens to wet card. That's advice anyway. I wouldn't do it. And also you'll find if your card's wet, you may well bleed into the adjacent area. So I would not do my skin until on his hand until the rest is completely dry. So I continue colouring in, and we'll come back actually when I've finished colouring in, and I'll show you what he looks like when he's all coloured. Okay, so I finished doing all my colouring in. See, my gentleman's nicely coloured in now, and I cut out, and I've also coloured in my lady as well in kind of coordinating colours for the background. And I've stuck down my background and my squares, and I've also added some dove grey pearls into the corners as well. So on my, going back to my original, this is the layout that we had. I quite like the fact that the guy's a little bit behind the lady. I think that's the way the world should be. But of course we could have them this way as well. But I actually like the flowing of the hair coming off the card this way. So we are going to just do it in the same way as before. So he's going to be about, see, I could have him right over that line there. In fact, let's do that. So we just have that line just there. And I've got foam pads underneath. And then she's going to be just down here with her hair flowing off. Then we need to have a sentiment. So I've got one of Phil's double debossed flags here. Apologies that they're not on the show, but we have had them at some point. And I'm just going to stamp the sentiment in the two different colours of the oxide that I used before. So going on with the hickory smoke first of all, and then adding a little bit of the faded jeans in there. And I mean, you could, like I did originally, I did it in the Versapine Clair. But style comes from within, and this is one of the sentiments that's in the, I think it's in the Smart Dress Gentleman. It's in one of the sets in the one day special. Yes, the Smart Dress Gentleman. Okay, so there's our stamped sentiment. So I've already edged that with the hickory smoke, and we're trying not to smudge it. I'm going to give it a little bit of shape and just grab my glue. Now obviously we've got a gentleman on here. You could put flowers on here if you want to, but I'm not going with flowers on this particular sample. Don't tell Phil. And I'm going to have it actually going over both of them. So from the side of the paper just there, and then gluing just down on her if I can. That'll do, I think. Try and get that straight. Obviously we've got squares down below, so that helps me get it straight. Okay, so there we are, there's our card finished, and I'll just bring in the blue version as well so you can see the two different, so they're exactly the same card but just different colourways. There we go.